Welcome to my Just Jenny podcast. My guest today is one of the Mindpump podcast people, Sal Distefano, we met, I don't even know how the first time we connected. I know I had you on my radio show a couple of times, and I know I did your podcast, but I don't even remember who the first person was that told me I had to listen to you guys.
Yeah, I don't remember. It might have been during when I had published or had my book published. So that was a couple of years ago.
That's it. That is it. It was the book. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think what I like about you and the show in general and the guys is that I feel like you're these three men, right, who are there with your expertise of training, and because you guys are trainers and coaches and, fitness and nutrition. But when you listen to every episode of Mind Pump, it's just so funny because it's almost like the fitness talk has sometimes it feels like it's ancillary to the whole conversation because you're busy talking about other things.
Yeah,
and
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you're like just three like teenage boys who are not teenagers having fun. It's adorable. It's just a really fun podcast to listen to.
Thank you, Jenny. It's really nice. First off, we had great chemistry when we first met. We all became really, really good friends. We have some core values in common. We're all dads, and we really value, being fathers. And we're all, we all did training for a long time. And I think if you train people for a living for 10, 15, or like us, 20 plus years, the only way that you can do that successfully long-term is you have to be very authentic. And you figure this out as a trainer, because in order to get clients to open up to you and get clients to be vulnerable and get clients to trust you, you have to be the same way. And so we all kind of, have that in common, where we just kind of are who we are. And then the part that you commented on, which I think is hilarious, but also a feature of being a trainer, is you said that the fitness stuff is ancillary. When you train, when you train everyday people, not fitness fanatics, right? So I'm not talking about people like me, just everyday people who want to help improve their health. The way that you bring them in and keep them is you talk about other stuff, and you make the workout's enjoyable, but it's not all about the workout. They're not fitness fanatics. And so you kind of figure that out, and you develop these great friendships, and the people show up and they enjoy being around you. And then you kind of, in a sneaky, effective way, you get the fitness stuff through, and it starts to permeate, and then it starts to influence their behaviors. So, I mean, my conversations with my clients were 90% life and kids and, what's going on, and 10% health and fitness. When I first started, it was the other way around. It was way less effective that way. So the show kind of reflects what it's like to train with one of us, actually. So it's very, very similar.
Let's go back to where this all began. And yes, you wrote The Resistance Training Revolution, and that was your book. So you're also an author, you're a podcast host, you're a trainer, and you're a dad. I didn't give you a proper introduction. So you guys have this wildly successful podcast. I just switched to podcasting in November when, after 17 plus years, my radio show ended. It was like it ended on a Friday, and I put my first episode up on a Monday. So I have been like learning on the go with a daily podcast. So I'm still very clunky. But take me back to how this whole kind of media mixed with writing, mixed with training, and with your friends began.
Yeah. So I started in the fitness industry. I was real young. I was 18 when I had to wait till I was 18. I wanted to train much earlier, but they wouldn't hire you unless you were an adult. So 18 years old, I walked into the gym that I had worked out at, which was a local 24-hour fitness, and applied to be a trainer, became a trainer. And it was the first time in my life I had felt, and some people are blessed to have this feeling where you do something and you're like, oh, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I had this incredible sense of purpose and meaning, and I loved it so much. And it was from day one. And so that was it. It was like I fell in love with it. In a very short time, I became a manager of these big box gyms. So 19, I was managing these big, gyms with large staffs and grand opening clubs, and just having a blast doing it. At 21, I opened my own gym, where I actually became an investor in a gym. So I was an owner of one. And then at 23, went off and opened a wellness studio up here in the Bay Area, where I was able to incorporate acupuncture, functional medicine, hormone testing, that kind of stuff. I didn't do that stuff. I had people in my facility that did that stuff. I was at the time mostly a meathead trainer. I knew exercises and proteins, fats, and carbs. But we had a great team and it was a lot of fun. And during that period of time, I used to hear about my now co-hosts and partners that I work with now, especially Adam. So Adam is one of my co-hosts. And I had friends that I worked with who would tell me, you got to meet this guy, Adam. You guys need to work together. It was very strange. And these are like different people saying this. It must have happened at least 5 times.
Yeah.
I didn't know that the same thing was happening to him. People would approach him all the time and say, you got to meet this guy, Sal. But we never really crossed paths or met until much later when I met my other partner, who's our producer, Doug, who actually became one of my clients. He was sent to me by a chiropractor. And through working together, we were able to solve his back pain and he got great results and, yada, yada. But he approached me probably, I want to say about 8 months into our relationship. And he said, Sal, I have some internet marketing experience. If you ever have a product, a fitness, anything that you want to put out there, I would love to work with you. And I had nothing at the time. And so I said, okay. And it was kind of the back of my mind. Maybe a month or two later, long story short, I created this kind of workout program, which is one of the first workout programs that we sold on Mindpump, called MAPS Anabolic. And I wrote it out and created it, and Doug presented to Doug. Doug put together, kind of this landing page and this, internet marketing, structure. And we made videos. I'd never been on video before.
So cool.
But we did that. We put all this sales material together and stuff. And at that point, I understood the fitness industry pretty well, somewhat well, I would say. And I knew that the only way to really be able to sell a program was there was a couple hurdles. One was I didn't have internet authority. And the way that you build authority traditionally in the fitness space is you look really extremely ripped or jacked or handsome or whatever. I mean, I was fit, but no way I would compete with any of the people in the magazines or, social media at the time. So I thought, I'm probably going to need to build my authority through my information. So, we got to look at some different avenues, and we consider blogs, YouTube, podcasting was another consideration. I like podcasting because it's long form.
Yeah.
And I know one thing I know about fitness is, although most fitness information is communicated, unfortunately, short form, right? Picture, caption, or ad or whatever. That's the worst possible way to communicate fitness because it's a conversation. It's, when I worked with clients, it was months and years of conversations that really got them to make the types of changes to their behaviors that stuck around, that felt good, that were healthy. It was never effective with a short, lose 30 pounds in 30 days, take this pill, whatever. So I like podcasting for that. Plus I didn't want to have to sell. I don't want to sell products based on how I looked because as a kid, I bought so many products based off of false promises. I mean, I burnt through so much money.
Yeah.
And, I had, poor self-esteem and body image issues, which is what brought me into fitness. I think that's true for most people get into working out. And I just didn't want to do it that way. So podcasting was, kind of the direction I wanted to go. And at the time, I remember Adam's name. People kept bringing up his name to me. So I said, you know what? He's very successful in our space at the time, the gym space. People keep telling me I got to meet this guy. I found him online, contacted him, and I said, hey, so-and-so keep telling me I need to meet you. I put together some marketing material and a workout program. I'd love your opinion if you wouldn't mind looking it over. And he's like, yeah, I'll take a look at it. So I sent it over to him and he's like, we got to get on the phone. So I got on the phone with him and we had a great conversation and decided to meet. And he wanted to introduce me to his business partner at the time, which is Justin, my other.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
And we all met at Adam's house. And it was, it's funny. The way I met my wife, or the way I first connected with my wife, was very similar, different, but similar. When you meet that person that you're like, you just sit down.
Know.
Yeah. And you end up talking for 10 hours and you're like, oh my God. Okay.
Yes.
Like happened with my wife. We were talking up till, 4 a.m. and it's just, same thing. We sit down in a room, me, Adam, and Justin. And the conversation, I think it was like 5 hours long, and it was so enthralling, and there was so much chemistry, and we had so much of the same similar ideas, although we were very different. Anybody who knows the three of us will tell you three very different guys. But it was just, and I remember, I didn't know this actually at the time, but Adam's wife actually recorded because she's halfway through, she's like, I got to record this. So she recorded the whole conversation. But we decided, hey, let's do a podcast together. And I said, Doug has, he's got equipment, so I think we could do this. Let's get started. And so we did. We started a podcast, zero media experience. And
how many years ago is this?
8 years. And trust me when I say this. First off, please don't go back and listen to the first 200 episodes. It's really embarrassing.
Everyone's going back right now and listening to episode like 6.
It's
just
terrible.
For sport.
It is really bad. We're super nervous. We're like broing out to the extreme because that's when you're a guy and you're nervous and you're around other guys. But for whatever reason, it resonated, and we quickly built an audience that was loyal, and that was it. The show took off from there, and it's been a consistent, slow growth through the last 8 years. We've been very blessed because it's really hard in our space to, we're competing with bad ideas that sell well.
Yes.
I'm trying to tell people, hey, you want to lose 30 pounds, doing this the right way, it's going to take about a year. We're going to have to make some fundamental changes to your behaviors. We're going to have to really look at your relationship with your body, your relationship with food. This is going to take a long time. It's a slow step-by-step process. I have to sell that better than the guy that's saying, you'll lose 30 pounds in 60 days. Just take this pill, follow this diet. It's super easy, whatever. That's hard. It's a hard thing to do. But I feel blessed because for whatever reason, we're able to effectively do it. We're able to effectively convince people to do it the quote unquote hard way and the long way. And it's growing, and it's starting to permeate the fitness space, and we're seeing the message start to spread. And I feel good about what I do, every single day. I'm not selling, cigarettes or alcohol. I'm selling good stuff. That's where we're at now. And the book was just, a publisher contacted us, and I think they recognized the show was big, and they said, hey, do you guys want to write a book? And I said, yeah, sure. So that was pretty easy transition, but it's just, honestly, it's what we did for 20 years now, just through the media lens. Really, it's really no different. It's the same conversations we had every day with clients.
So a few things about what you just said. I think something really insightful was about how you didn't want sort of your appearance to be the thing that was the reason that people were hearing or listening to your advice. And I know, like, on some level, it has to be some of that, because we're talking about the body. It's like, I don't want to take advice from somebody who doesn't have any handle on their own body. That doesn't mean perfection, and it doesn't mean a specific size, or, I'm a woman, so I'm not looking for like a super jacked whatever, but like, I'm never going to look like many of the fitness women, because A, I'm not a fitness woman, and B, it's not my body type. So to like think that it's going to be just because I do pull-ups, can't do one, because I do whatever, is silly. And I think a lot of people who are uninformed and in a moment of sort of desperation will look at somebody else's feed and see what they look like and be like, oh my God, okay, if I just do 75 crunches and eat like chicken and broccoli, like I will definitely look just like that person. And I dye my hair. Like, there's no way for that to actually end in a good way. So it's better to kind of show up with actual information that people can know that if they follow it and they do it, that they will achieve their best version of themselves, rather than like looking like you. So I think you're totally right about that.
Thank you. Yes. Let me add to that, Jenny, because first off, spoken like somebody who's who created themselves a lifelong relationship with health and fitness. I can tell that that's where it's coming from. It's even deeper than that. I'll tell you, there's a couple things. One, fitness and health is for everyone. It's not just for some people. It'll
Right.
improve the quality of your life, regardless of the context of your life. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
The way you look is a side effect of your health.
That's right.
It is not
Right.
the primary effect. And then lastly, not to speak ill of anyone, but the truth and the reality is this, Jenny, it'll be hard for you. In fact, almost impossible to find a space that's more riddled with body image issues and dysfunctional eating than the fitness space.
Yeah.
So it's just riddled. It's like the modeling industry. It's not a healthy industry, and idolizing that or using that as your compass is a path towards failure, or worse, you become like they are. And believe me, a lot of them are miserable, unhealthy.
Oh, it's clear.
It's so I want to do this the right way. I want people to understand how to do this the right way. And I want people to really feel what fitness and health really is, which is this is going to sound so esoteric and silly, but it's true. It is a wonderful vehicle for personal growth. You just mentioned one of them. Okay. I remember when I was 17 years old and I realized I'm never going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was my idol, right? I want to look like Arnold, right? And then I discovered he took steroids, and then I discovered,
of course. Everything.
And then it's, there's genetics that, some people just are going to build crazy amounts of muscle.
Of course.
But what it did for me was, instead of quitting, this is where the personal growth came in for me at that moment, was I actually had some self-acceptance. Said, okay, well, I'll keep doing this anyway. That's where self-care and self-love actually come from. It's like, okay, well, this is who I am.
Yep.
And, this is good for me. And great. If it's great for you, that's awesome. But my goal is to be the best version of myself, whatever that means. And in fitness and, how I eat and how I view both of those things, and all the things that encompass health, that is going to make life better for me. It's going to help me show up better. It's going to make me a better husband and father. It's going to make me more innovative and productive. It's going to stave off depression. It's going to make the happy moments happier. When you see it that way, it's this incredible multifaceted tool that I can mold and shape based on what's going on. Like, I'll tell you what, last night I have a 3-month-old daughter. Okay. Which, if you have kids, you're not going to sleep for the first at least 6 months. Right. So your
wife is never going to sleep again. My kids are 24 and 22. Your wife's never sleeping again. It's a horrible thing. It's a big bait and switch.
Oh, my poor wife. She's slowly losing her mind. So last night we were up all night. I get about 1/10 of the sleep deprivation that she does, but it's brutal. And so how do my workouts look? Well, they look very different. Yeah. I'm not working out to try and, kill it or whatever. Right now, what I'm doing and what she's doing is we're using exercise appropriately to help ourselves handle the stress and the challenge of, having a newborn. Years ago, I went through a really, really challenging, difficult time. I had a very close family member that had a battle with cancer. It lasted over 1.5 years, and I was very close to them. I was very involved in the whole process.
Yeah.
When I went to the gym, it was, honestly, 100%. My goal was, I need to be able to help this person. So what do I got to do today that's going to help me help them better? So a lot of the times, what my workouts look like? 15 minutes of stretching, 10 minutes of meditation, maybe a walk. Sometimes it was lifting. Other times it was almost nothing. But it was so valuable for me. Now, had I, if I was obsessed with just how I looked, I would have used exercise inappropriately. It would have harmed me. And I probably wouldn't be doing it today. But this is how it's not. This is how fitness is not explained or sold
the right way.
Yeah. And it's really, it's a travesty. It really is, because there was a meta-analysis that was just released, in fact, where they are now going to consider exercise as a frontline therapy for depression and anxiety. Like, do you know how, that's phenomenal. That's so
I'm living proof of it, Sal. That exercise changed my life. It changed my brain chemistry. There's not a doubt in my mind. I don't think I would be functioning right now if I didn't make sure that I move every day. I don't. I have been through a lot of trauma in the past couple of years, and I don't know how I'd be functioning. Exercise saved me. It really did. And I know I'm not a doctor or a therapist. I'm just a person, but the dramatic impact it has had on my well-being feels nothing short of miraculous. And now, of course, we know it's actually brain chemistry, but, yeah, that's the greatest lesson. It's probably one of my greatest life lessons up until now, is that all along I thought I had to exercise in order to be a certain size. That never worked. That never worked. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until I looked at exercise as maybe, just maybe, it would help my anxiety a little bit. Maybe it would.
The data is clear on it.
Yeah.
It's clear. It's not just
Fascinating.
you. In fact, the
Yeah.
meta-analysis showed that in the period of time that they compared them, it was as effective, but I'll add to that in a second, as psychotherapy and pharmaceutical interventions. Now, here's what I'm going to add to that. When you look at the other studies that examine the proper application of exercise long-term, it actually begins to perform better than those two methods, especially pharmaceutical intervention. Now, why is that? Because when you exercise appropriately, the benefits actually begin to compound and multiply. Whereas with pharmaceuticals, anybody who's ever used a pharmaceutical to handle or to help deal, and by the way, I'm not anti-pharmaceutical. I want to be very clear.
Know.
I think there's a very important role for them.
Sure.
But you get down regulation of receptors. You have to change medications. Brain chemistry changes. Doesn't stop working. Exercise done properly actually starts to work better and better and better as you continue along the process. And it's not just the brain chemistry, that's part of it. It's not just the improved physical health, which, by the way, the brain is a part of, or the hormone profile. Well, those are all very true. It's also this. It's the process by which you go out, you're empowered, you do something hard, you learn from it, you get better at things. It is a very empowering method of self-improvement. And then what you said about the mental part, and I say this on my show all the time, and this is 100% true, 100% true. If you were to ask a group of 100 people who've been exercising for 10 years or more consistently, ask them to list the top 5 reasons why they continue to exercise. The way they look won't make the top 5. You know what'll be number 1? Mental well-being.
It's true.
That's true for everybody who does it. We know this. That's why I still do it. The way I look, great. It's nice.
Whatever.
But let me tell you, the mental well-being, I wouldn't trade that for anything. I would gain 30 pounds and I don't care for the mental well-being.
I know what you mean. And I agree with you. There comes a point, I think if you're involved enough in fitness for as many years as you have been, for sure, and in a different way as I have been through sort of maintaining a weight loss or whatever, the actual aesthetic is the least of it. It's really feeling okay, feeling good, and being healthy. And I'm a big believer in blood work and all of that stuff to kind of make sure your insides are working the way that they're supposed to. But that's what exercise and kind of all the wellness stuff is for me. I just want to be here as long as I can. And then also able to climb a flight of stairs and, God willing, one day lift grandchildren. That's just what I want.
I love it.
Yeah.
No, it's, when you say that, so when I trained people, towards the end of my, I'd say the last maybe 8 years of my, coaching and training career before Mindpump, I started to, once you get experience as a trainer, start to get lots of referrals, you can start to choose the types of clients you want to work with. Yeah, you can't be so picky in the beginning. You want to train everybody so you can build your business and learn. But then you start to figure out who you really like training the most and who you make the biggest impact with, what brings you the most value as a trainer. And I loved working with people in advanced age. Advanced age is classified as over 65. That's fitness terminology.
Yeah.
But I loved it more than any other group because, getting someone to lose weight, improve their health, it's awesome, profoundly impactful. But, I'll tell you a story that it literally brought me to tears when it happened. Even when I talk about it now, I get the chills. I had an 82-year-old client who was brought to me by her daughter because she, was losing her independence, and she, just her function and mobility wasn't great. So she brought her to me, and I don't know, it must've been about 6 months into our training. I was working with another client. I'm in my studio, and in walks my client, my 82-year-old client. And she goes, hey, Sal, sorry to interrupt. She goes, I know it's not my day to work out, but I just want to let you know I was next door buying groceries and I was able to reach up and close the trunk of my car by myself. That's a big deal.
Wow.
That's a really big deal.
It
you know?
is.
And I would hear stories like that all the time. Like, I was able to make it up my stairs, or, hey, I put on my shoes by myself, or, you know, I played with my grandchildren and I felt like I could get on the floor with them and play cars with them where I couldn't do that before. Like, that was so profound. I get the chills right now thinking about it. Yeah. So that was like towards the end there, it was like, this is what I want to do. I want to work with these people because that's for me, selfishly, it just brought so much,
I know.
Value to what I did.
I was last summer, and you were just actually, you had an episode about this, how to get back to exercise when you've had to not exercise. Last summer, there was a lot of, I lost my father this past fall. He had cancer. I was one of his main caregivers, and it has been a stressful time. And so I think I was careless, and I sometimes were careless, and I was in socks without treads on the bottom of my socks. And I slipped, like my feet came out from under me down on these two steps, these two solid wood steps. So like my feet came out from under me, and I landed in the back of my back ribs, and I broke 2 ribs and 3 transverse processes. So in 30 seconds, I'm on now the floor of my den, and my husband's there because thank God he was there. And the first moment was, my God, can I move? Like, can I move? Like, I was so afraid that I was going to be paralyzed. Like, that was the first fear. I could move, like I could move my feet, I could move my legs, I could feel everything. But I knew I really had fucked myself up, because that kind of pain is not, I'm not a baby with that stuff. I can handle, I don't like pain. I feel pain more than a lot of people because I'm a redhead, and that's a real thing. But like, I can, as long as I know I'm going to be okay, I can deal with anything. So had x-rays because I had to, because just of the location, like you have to just have and the pain was that bad. Anyway, broken all these bones. And I was told effectively, like I could not move really I wasn't allowed to walk. I think they said for 2 weeks, I had to like really not do my normal steps, which was hell for me, like mentally hell for me. And then it still took, I think I had pain. I think I got back to walking within a week and a half, because I was like, this is not, I put on one of those, like, keep your ribs in place things. And like, but I couldn't sleep for days because of the pain. But I was so terrified that I would never feel okay again and have like range of motion and be able to get back to myself. And now I'm back pretty much, an extra 5 pounds was annoying as fuck from the whole ordeal, but I now can exercise again like I did, but I'm much more fearful. And I don't know how to get back from that feeling. Like, that's the place where I'm so afraid of an injury that I don't want to dance and jump, like, because I'm so afraid of an injury. Doesn't mean I don't get my heart rate up. I still can walk great distance, and I can walk up a hill, but I'm terrified. So how do you get someone back to feeling like they can like still push themselves in a way that's safe and protected? And even other things, like I have chronic tailbone crap, like that's funny, chronic tailbone issues that I know are nothing. I just had an MRI. Like, it's either because I have a tilted uterus and old lady bullshit and fibroids. It's so fun. Just be nice to your wife when she's 53. Just be kind, because we really are doing the best that we can, Sal. So trying to effectively work through all of that and still build muscle, because lean muscle mass is so important to women as we age, like for our health and well-being and our structure and our bone density. But the terror, like, how do you work through that with what'd you call it? Advanced aged clients?
So first off, what you're explaining and what you experience, or what you experienced, is super common. It's actually more common than not whenever somebody gets injured. So I've worked with young athletes, same thing. tear an ACL or, have a broken bone
Yeah.
from playing a sport. And then they're just scared of exercise or even playing the sport that they love so much because they have a memory of that injury. And that memory is hardwired in your brain. It's a traumatic event. Like any traumatic event, we create neural pathways to that. Now, the way to get out of that is very similar to the way that someone gets over a phobia. Okay. So let's say you have a mild phobia of spiders. Well, there's something called exposure therapy, where you start by looking at pictures of spider, or maybe drawings of spiders, then pictures, then videos, and then maybe you look at a live one in front of you. And over time, you start to develop different neural pathways, and that fear starts to go away. Because what you're explaining is almost like an unconscious, it's like a fear that comes up before you have a chance to cognitively tell yourself, I'm just working out. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So the way around it is, and I hate to say this because it takes a little while, it's slow practice. Okay. So you do what is tolerable. So you push the limits of what's tolerable. Don't go beyond it, because what you don't want to do is elicit another strong fear reaction, because you'll actually start to strengthen that. You don't want to go beyond what is tolerable, but do what is tolerable. And like training your body for endurance or strength or performance, you just hit that line a little bit. And then the next time that line tends to move, and that line tends to move. And over time, that fear starts to dissipate and go away. You start to feel good and stable with your exercise. So that may mean that the kind of exercise you're doing now, you can still get a great workout, you can do all that stuff, but it may be different than what you were used to. So maybe you were comfortable, I'll say maybe you were comfortable running on a treadmill, but now you're like, oh, that feels unstable to me. So, okay, let's back down and do uphill walking or incline walking, right? Maybe you did free weight barbell squats before, but now you're like, oh, that kind of feels iffy on my ribs or my back. That's kind of scary. Okay, well, what about walking lunges, or what about a leg press machine?
Yeah.
So there, and then slowly progress. Yes, because a lot of people don't know this, but when you train the body, a lot of the training, in fact, the majority of the training and adaptations that happen in the body actually happen to our central nervous system, which includes the brain. So part of the reason why you get better at exercises or stronger is because your central nervous system is able to fire muscles better, in better communication. And then there's also, of course, the physiological fitness that improves, but you're training your brain just as much as you're training your body. And so think of it that way through the fears. I want to comment on your tailbone pain, by the way. Have you had a pelvic floor specialist?
My pelvic floor is fine. As we age, you're going to have aches and pains. I mean,
100%.
Which is also funny. Like, I laugh at them sometimes when I get out of bed and everything's stiff. And I'm like,
this is why when I talk to the body obsessed people, or talk about the body obsessed people in my space, it's like, you're going to either learn how to love yourself now, or you're going to be forced to, because we all age. It's like those Hollywood celebrities that refuse to age, and everybody around them can see, like, okay, that's way too much stuff you're doing.
Oh my God.
To fight this thing that is inevitable. There was it's funny, we did an episode where I went through this chart of the average ages that we are the best at particular things. Do you know what the average age of the best chances of body acceptance, or what age most people have the best body acceptance is? 65.
I believe that. That
65.
makes sense.
Now, what does that say to you? That you know what that said to me? It's not about how you look.
No, it's a lot of time wasted. That's what it says to me.
Yes. So it's like, I'll be, look, I don't care how a fit 65-year-old is not going to look like they did when they were fit in 25.
Right.
But that's when they learn body acceptance. Exactly what I thought. A lot of time wasted.
Well, that's really what one of the biggest problems is within the fitness industry, is this trying to recapture being 20, which half the time you weren't that great at 20. So you're like longing for this ideal that wasn't even factual then, but we like create this thing in our heads, or we do the opposite. I mean, sometimes I look at pictures and I'm like, I can't believe I hated myself so much then when I was adorable. Like, how did I have such low self-esteem? Like, I look at those pictures and I'm like, she was so damn cute. How did you not know that? Like, how did you? but we're also weird, but it is true with the aging stuff. Like when I see somebody who's a public figure who has in a way gone overboard to my eye in terms of what they've done to maintain a youthful look, I just feel sad for them because I'm like, they've lost kind of like any real perspective of what it is to look like a person. And in all fairness, how can they know? Because everything is fake at this point. Like,
Yeah, no, good point. You know, one of the someone I follow quite a bit, Eckhart Tolle, great books,
yeah,
great
yeah,
speaker.
yeah.
You know, he talks about this like collective mental illness. Like, I want to be really clear. Like, we all live in this weird world. I think
It's
all of us,
weird.
yeah, all of us to an extent
Yeah.
have, you know, these challenges. It just can be more extreme than the other. But it's funny when you think back to when you were young. I forgot who said this. This was somebody was explaining this. I said, oh, that's exactly what happens. We think, oh, I wish I was 20 again. The problem is that we think we'll have the wisdom we have now and go back in time when we were 20. No, when you were 20, you were miserable in comparison to how you are now with your wisdom
That's
and
right.
knowledge. You can't go back in time and have it all. That's like, you know, we're not vampires.
Nope. We're not. And it's a whole, but you're right. Like I guess the more you realize, and it doesn't negate, like the more you realize it's more important to feel okay on the inside, it doesn't negate the importance of the stuff on the outside, because
Yes.
obviously we do see each other and it's esteemable to want to be the best you, whatever that means for you. Like different people look good different ways, right? Like there are some women that can go gray and they're very comfortable with gray hair. I'm not one of those women. Like I will be dyeing my hair until I'm dead. Like I don't ever want gray hair, but like that's my barometer for me. I don't care what anybody else chooses to do, but I also like don't see myself having like head to toe surgery. I don't want it. And I'm as imperfect as you could possibly be, but I'm okay with that because I can walk and get myself up a hill. Like
Yeah.
it's all
You know,
kind of like the things that matter to you. And that's like, you've got to get to a point where you really know yourself and you really can find a place of being okay with the aging stuff. And it's fluid. I'm sure you have days where you're like annoyed that things aren't as easy as they once were.
yeah, yeah. You know, self-care, self-love, self-acceptance, that's really an action more than it's a feeling. And I want to say it because when I
Yes.
say self-love, people are like, oh, I don't, you know, nobody like has the feeling of loving themselves I mean, heck, I don't have the feeling of loving my kids every day. Sometimes they get on my nerves. It's
That's so normal, Sal. That's healthy. That means you're actually involved with your children. Go
totally.
on.
It's not a feeling, it's an action. And
Yeah.
so the action is, okay, you know, how can I care for myself today like somebody I care about? That's really what it boils down to. And then, you know, back to the comment about how we look on the outside.
Yeah.
Reason why, just evolutionarily speaking, the reason why we value a relatively, and I use the word relatively because we've really you know, we've made this too extreme and it's now become toxic, but a relatively lean body, relatively strong, good mobility. The reason why we value some of those things is because evolutionarily speaking, they are they tell us about the person's health, is what they tend to do.
Yes.
So here's the key here. If we were, anybody listening right now, if you were to close your eyes and imagine yourself with excellent health, not just physically, but mentally, spiritually, like you're just healthy all the way around. What would the physical representation of that look like? Right? Vibrant, energetic. You would, you know, you would be bright, you know, you wouldn't probably look shredded or extreme or whatever. But when people meet you, they would feel that health. They would feel, and it would be attractive. That's what's attractive. I've had the, you know, I don't know if you want to call it fortune, misfortune, whatever, of meeting a lot of these fitness influencers.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, when you meet them in person and you see them in person, you feel that they're not healthy. Oftentimes, you could tell.
Oh, yeah.
You go to one of these stages, these fitness competition stages. You look at their faces.
I know. Oh, I've seen it. Yeah.
They're the Walking Dead. So,
Yeah.
you know, this is the kind of health that you feel not through social media with airbrush and all that garbage. Like when you meet someone and you're like, man, that person, they're attractive. They're really
Right.
attractive.
No, you could tell, of course.
Yes,
You
yes.
actually know. Yeah. And then there's a whole part of the stuff on social with just all the lying. I mean, I can't,
Oh, yeah.
it's just, you know,
Yeah.
and also I can't don't tell me to take fitness advice from a 22-year-old girl. Please don't. It's just so not even kind of going to help me a little bit, especially when she's claiming that she has a green juice for breakfast and then like a kale bowl for lunch and, some string beans for dinner. Like, I know it's not really true. And because she's 22, and B, it's just, again, it has nothing to do with my life. Like, if she's not sometimes eating a bag of Cinedragons from Trader Joe's, then we can't be friends. Like,
yeah, well, I've never heard of that snack. That
dude,
sounds
don't start. I was in my sister's house the other day, and she wasn't. I like to go to my sister's house and snoop and steal. And there was this bag of Cinedragons from Trader Joe's. They're like a chewier gummy bear, not a gummy bear texture. There's no gelatin. So these are they're almost like a fruit snack. Like, kids eat those not fruit snacks. There's no fruit in them, but they're corn syrup or whatever. But I think Trader Joe's probably just uses sugar in quotes. It's all the same. Yeah. But they have a very, very, very strong cinnamon flavor, and they're like big, and they're dragons. They're delicious.
Oh, you just sold them. I'm going to go get some today.
Don't even start.
It's
a problem.
Yeah.
So good.
I love the way you talk about this stuff. Again, I can tell this has been something that you've been doing for a long time. When we have someone on the show, people are often like, why don't you have other fitness influencers on the show or lots of other trainers? And we have some, but not a lot.
Yeah.
And it's because, you mentioned like the 20-year-old fitness influencer. It's hard for us to take anybody seriously unless they've trained everyday people for at least a decade. Because look, you might have figured out how to do this for yourself, and you're probably a fanatic about it. But if you haven't worked with hundreds or thousands of people, then you can't communicate fitness properly. You just can't, because it's not one size fit all. It is not, the average person is not a maniac about fitness. It's not their life. You often hear these fitness influencers like, kill it, beast mode, just do it. I remember, this is okay. I'm going to apologize to all the people I trained probably for the first 5 years of my career.
Yeah.
I remember when I would get, the parent that would come see me, and they'd say, oh, it's just hard to find the time. Here I am with 19-year-old, like fitness enthusiast. And I would do the stupid speech, Jenny. It's so embarrassing. But I would do the stupid speech where I'd say, we all have the same 24 hours in a day, and the time you take aside for fitness is going to increase the productivity and the time you'll have for other things. It's going to make you better. Or whatever. And I know the person sitting across would probably, or they should have been thinking, you idiot kid, you have no idea. You have no kids. You don't have a mortgage.
Such a jerk. Yeah.
You have no idea what you're talking about. Now, later on, when I became more effective and I actually understood, like, okay, this is like a real thing. These people aren't like fanatical and, like I am. I remember people would say to me, God, time is just such an issue. And then, what I would say to them? I'd say, it is. How much time do you think you can realistically commit to fitness? And there was never a wrong answer. I don't care what they said to me. 30 minutes a week,
right?
3 days a week, once a week. I don't care what it was. I'd say, perfect. We'll start there. And you know what would happen, Jenny? Is if I did a good job, that 30 minutes or 60 minutes or whatever they said they could do realistically was better than what they were doing before. They would start to feel the effects. They would start to see what it could do for them. And then, like clockwork, they would come to me, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months later, and they'd say, hey, you know what? I think I'd like to do another day, or I think I could find more time. And then it just worked. It just became so much more effective.
Yeah.
But I used to do that stupid speech where,
couldn't help yourself, but that's all you knew. That's all you thought it was going to work.
Yes. So it's like, I'd give people meal plans. Oh, you want to lose weight? Just eat this. That's the ticket right here. And it never worked. No really one ever got, what the statistics are, Jenny, on weight loss? What percentage of people are able to maintain the weight that they lost within the first couple of years? Do you know what that number is?
Very, very low. I do know. It's
over
like
85% gain it all back. I bet you if we extend that to 5 years, you're probably looking at 95+%.
I know.
And you know how many people, do you know how many people lose weight in America every year? Millions and millions of people. The vast majority of them just can't figure out how to keep it off.
It's hard. I get it. It's hard.
They entered into it wrong. They got the wrong information. I hate my space for this, the fitness space. I'll say this with 100% confidence. 99% of the stuff you're going to read in my space is garbage. It's terrible information.
Yeah.
So it's like, and yet we have the answer. We do have the answer. We're just communicating it terribly. It's sold to us by orthorexic.
Snake oil and snake oil. Oh, and orthorexics, please. That's the other.
Yeah.
I went through that phase. I mean, first of all, weight maintenance is hard because it's boring. Weight maintenance is hard because you have no motivation and you have to just do it anyway. Like that's everyone's like, get motivated. I'm like, for what? Like, I'm motivated to get in my bed every night. Like, that is my motivation each day, is that at the end of the day, I get to crawl under my covers, my husband and my 4 dogs, and go to sleep. Like that's all I want to get to each day. I
don't know if you realize the wisdom that you just tapped into. The motivation is such a it's a great feeling. It's wonderful. It's like it's like being happy, right? It's like you want to be happy all the time. It's a feeling, it goes away. If you rest your laurels on motivation, you will stop at some point. Motivation's gone and you're done. So what you have to figure out how to develop this behavior, these habits, this discipline. Yeah. Otherwise you will do what everybody does, which is sometimes I do it.
Sometimes I don't. And and that's why when people, through the years have said to me, you're obsessive, you're this, you're that you have to work out every day, or that you care about what you eat. And again, not in an orthorexic way. Like I just told you, I just ate a bag of Snapdragons the other day and I want more, but I also eat vegetables and protein, and I try to be really mindful of the amounts because I have to be. But like, people will say, oh, you're obsessive and you're crazy, and I'm like, I'm not obsessive or crazy. Everybody gains their weight back. Like, I just don't ever want to gain weight back. Like, that's okay. That is okay that I don't want to be fat. Like, I don't have to apologize for that. That's okay. It doesn't make me disordered. It doesn't make me crazy. It makes me intentional. And the fact that I don't want to gain weight, that's
you know what it makes
fair.
You know what it makes you? This is kind of sad thing. A sad realization I had a while ago. In a modern society where the norm is terrible relationship with food, being sedentary, obesity, and poor health. That's the norm. You are weird. You are weird. You are you are going to stand out because we have organized our society in a way where you have to go out of your way to be healthy, because the default, just living your life, the default is poor health. So you have to go out of your way to be healthy. So you are going to be weird. It is, and I say this because this is important for people to understand, because the pressure is real. You'll go out with your friends, you'll hang out with people, and they might not understand. They may make comments, they may say things like you're obsessive, or come on, it's not a big deal, or who cares, or whatever. And first off, be empathetic. It's understanding, empathetic. Be firm, don't use verbiage like I can't eat that. Say things like, no, thanks, I don't want it. I think that's much more effective. But it is, everything is working against you. And so this is something that has to be intentional. It is something that you have to develop skill around. It is a practice. And it will get better and easier the longer you do it, just like any practice. But you are going to stand out. It's just the way it is.
So why do you think people love Mindpump's podcast so much? Like, what do you think it is beyond just the chemistry of you and Adam and Justin? Like, why do you think everybody loves it?
I think what people keep saying to us is that we are authentic and that we speak to the person. And again, this is just, I guess it was on accident or whatever, but when you work with people, here's the beauty of being a trainer for a long time. First, I'll say this. Nobody becomes a trainer or a coach because they want to be rich. It's a terrible way to be rich. I'll say that right now.
Right. Yeah.
Anybody who does it and really does it is because you have a passion for both fitness and people. You can't have one without the other to be successful in this. You have a passion for fitness and people. So if you stick with it long enough, you eventually start to ask yourself the following questions. Why am I not effective? Why is this not working? Why can't I help people the way I want? Like, what's going on? Like, at first you think, oh, people are lazy, people can't stick to it. Then you start to say, no, this can't be. These are executives. These are successful people. These are mothers and fathers who are great parents. Like, what am I doing wrong? You ask yourself that question over and over, And you have to, you grow and you learn how to empathize, have compassion, and communicate. You learn how to communicate effectively. So I think the reason people like our show so much is what they hear is decades of learning how to communicate fitness in real effective ways that really resonate with everyday people. Now, if you're a fitness fanatic and you listen to the show, you'll probably enjoy it for the stories and because we can speak to the science. If you want to get nerdy with it, I can do that.
Yeah.
But if you're an everyday average person and you listen, you'll start to hear yourself saying like, wow, that makes sense. And oh my God, I've been doing it wrong this whole time. And okay, I think I need to work on how I feel about myself. And okay, this is doable. This is doable. I think I can do this. So I think that's why, but I'm guessing because to be quite honest, I don't know. It's weird. We're, like I said, we have no media experience. We just get on the podcast, have a good time.
Yeah.
And I feel really blessed that so many people have found value in what we're doing.
I think it's because the three of you, like you were saying before, how when you can't go back and listen to the early episodes, I get that. Don't. It's the most painful thing. I mean, if I go back 17 plus years and listen to myself on air, I want to die. It's just horrible. Like my voice is like, hey, get it. It's like, hello. Yeah. But in addition, I think like the way you guys are now, there's almost like that bro thing exists because you're three bros, right? However, there's like a softness and a sweetness to the three of you that is so cute and appealing and evolved. I think that's what I like, that you're clearly like three meatheads who have evolved into just almost like very well-rounded men. It's really sweet, actually.
That's really nice. That's really nice to hear. You know what I love?
That I called you meatheads. That's nice. But
no, the sweet part.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know what I appreciate about these guys is that everybody's very growth-minded.
Yes, it's clear.
Everybody is we don't poke at each other. I mean, we do for fun. I mean, we're guys.
Yeah, no, normal way. Yeah, of course.
But it's great being around such great fathers. That's the main thing for me. Everybody really is such a good, involved,
devoted dad. Are you the one who bought the thing off of TikTok, the choke machine?
I did.
I can't believe you pulled the trigger on that. Like my niece just had a baby. And that is my biggest fear. Like with, I mean, I have 1,000 fears, but that God willing, when my kids have kids one day, like the choking thing, I don't know how all these people online have babies eating on camera and they let them like self wean and do all this shit. And they hold big giant bits of food and they put it near their mouth. We would take a grape and cut it into like 16 pieces of a grape when we were feeding our babies. We weren't chancing stuff. How did you bought that thing?
Well, they got me because there was an ad. I hate talking about it. There was an ad.
I saw it. I get it.
Oh,
yeah.
So, and that's already a fear of mine. So I'm like, you know what? I want to have this in my house because if my kid chokes, I want to have this thing that'll get the whatever is stuck in their windpipe. So yeah, I got 3 of them. I have one for toddler, one for like adolescents because I have 2 teenagers, one's a young teenager, and then I have one for adults. So I got 3 of them and I have them right there in the kitchen.
And you know how they work?
Yeah, you put the mask on.
Yeah.
There's a little plunger thing. You push it down, pull it out, and then it sucks whatever was stuck.
I can't believe it really works. It scares the crap out of me. My husband used it like the 2 times there was I think one was like a penny and he scooped in and got it out.
Oh.
And and I forget what the other one was, but yeah, it was, I mean, we have like a family rule. Nobody eats steak alone. We're all grown-ups.
We do that too, but not for the choking, just because why would you enjoy a steak by yourself?
Why would you enjoy anything by yourself? But still, I'm like a paranoid, total freak. Have you guys addressed all the new obesity, the new class of obesity meds on the podcast?
Yeah. So you're referring to like semaglutide or
tirzepatide and semaglutide. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've had some, so we work with a company that works with, so those are considered peptides. And I know they're classifying them as drugs, not the same thing. Mm-hmm. Peptides are signaling molecules that the body already uses. So we identify these signalers. Now, why is this different? Because the body's already used to these signaling chemicals. So it's not like we're forcing the body to do anything that it doesn't already do. It already recognizes it, which means the potential for negative side effects is much lower, and all that other stuff. What do I think about it? This is the first time, this is based off the data, this is the first weight loss medication that I've seen that actually has some effects. It has some effects. It is not a stimulant. The previous drugs that were available were stimulants, which I never liked because it's got some negative effects on behavior, and it can cause downregulation of certain receptors, and and we know stimulants can have some potential negative effects on the heart and stuff like that. So this one's interesting. It's got it actually has some effects. Now here's the thing. This is where there's always the caveat. Let's just say that they invented a weight loss pill that really took all the body fat off you that you wanted and made you fit like you exercised, and it literally was a miracle pill. Here's why it would not compare to exercising and eating right and all that stuff. Because this is the comparison I like to give, Jenny. Imagine if someone took you in a helicopter and dropped you off at the top of Mount Everest. Beautiful view. It's incredible. This is unbelievable. Would it be the same growth and the same process and the same anything as actually climbing that mountain yourself? Now, to the average person listening, they're like, shut up, I just want to lose the weight.
Yeah.
But to somebody like you or myself who's done this for a long time, the process and the journey, there's so much value in that. The results are great. The fitness and all that stuff are great, and there's value in that too. But the process and the journey, there's tremendous value in that you won't get from solving this, issue with a medication. Now these drugs are not the miracle. They do work, but they're not a miracle.
Well, this is what I was going to say. What about the person who, because I do believe that there are many cases of severe obesity where people cannot move the needle, not because they're not trying, not because they're lazy, not because, if I gain 5 pounds, it's not because I'm lazy. It's because whatever happened, right? It's like how your brain works, wants to be fat, whatever. But there are people who do really try to do everything right, and they do exercise, and they do try to watch their calories. And yes, we all know that gut microbiome plays a fact, and that some people metabolize things differently from other people. You could have two people eat the same things and their body will look very different. That's all true. But when your mechanisms or your brain really has, there are some brains that are broken in this way, or guts that are broken in this way and need that kind of help. I do think it's important to have the availability. And then with that, the right thing to do for long-term is to exercise and learn better nutrition and those kind of things, because then it's not sustainable anyway without that.
No. And okay. So I'll tell you about a great study, and then I'll give you what I think would be I'll use 3 scenarios and we'll paint them, and then I'll tell you which one's ideal. There was a study that was done a long time ago where they took obese individuals.
Yeah.
They divided them into groups. One group worked with a nutritionist. The other group worked with a therapist. The group that worked with the therapist had better long-term success for weight loss. Okay, so what does that tell us? It's less about the mechanistic actions and more about the why. Why do I do this with food? Why do I have this relationship with activity? Why am I not taking care of myself the way that I should, or the way that I deserve to be? Okay, so that's very important. And you learn that through the process. But now let me give you 3 scenarios. Scenario 1 is you just take these peptides. Okay. So I just take semaglutide or Ozempic, I think is a brand name. Or the second option is through doing this right, I learn how to develop a good relationship with exercise and nutrition. And then the third option is I combine them all. I work with all of them. The first option is going to produce the worst result. You'll get some results, but it's not going to be the best. The second option is going to outperform the first option. The third option will outperform all of them. So I think, like all medications that are actually efficacious, that because Western medicine does some things very well, it does some things very terribly.
Of course.
If you work with a good trainer, if you work on developing a better relationship with food, these peptides can take the edge off. How?
That's right.
They can help with appetite control. So you don't have such a
Yeah.
strong signal, but you still have to examine why you reach for food when you're stressed or anxious.
100%. I agree with you. There is
Yes.
no miracle. All of it is going to take work. And actually, when you lose weight too quickly, and I don't even know that that's what these meds do, but like if you lose a lot of body fat, you're going to lose muscle mass potentially. So you have to lift weights in order to
Yeah.
retain lean muscle mass. I mean, there's a whole bunch of caveats like that, but I'm happy that these are now available without the same level of stigma that the older drugs had, that some I think was valid and some maybe not so valid. You know, there's a lot of, I had another, an obesity medicine doctor on who was explaining how the stimulants there was all this stuff about a cardiac risk profile that didn't really exist, that actually wasn't a problem. Like those are meds that have been on the market for 70 years or something. And I just made up a number, I think like 50 years. But these meds, you're right, they have a much safer like profile all around. Like the conjecture is that they're efficacious and safer. And
yeah, the peptide space, the whole peptide space is going to revolutionize medicine. I mean, I'm saying this as a person in the fitness and wellness space.
That's cool. Yeah.
So the peptide space is pretty remarkable. They're different than drugs. Again, the body recognizes these. They already use these signaling chemicals. But they're not miracles. Nothing is. But
no, nothing is. Yeah.
If you work with them properly and you combine it with like trying, like you don't have to go all out, like literally what I said during this whole podcast, like take that first step. There is no wrong first step. Whatever you feel you can do realistically forever, even if that means you just drink an extra glass of water a day, you walk for 10 minutes, whatever.
Yeah.
Start there, and you can start to develop a better behaviors around activity, around nutrition. Use these peptides in conjunction. If you have access, they are expensive, but if you have access, work with these things together, and your odds of success are going to be higher because of the combination.
Make sure you find a reputable dispensary, that it's doctors or some sort of licensing, because they're not super regulated yet in that field. The medicines are, but the peptides aren't. So you have to be careful,
Yeah, we have a mphormones.com. We work with doctors there.
Okay.
And so you're going to get it from a pharmacy because.
Okay, good. Yeah, just making sure.
Yeah, because they're available in this gray market of research chemicals.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that. You
don't want the Medi Spa.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, because that makes me nervous. I like an actual doctor's hand and whatever is going to be possibly given to me. Otherwise.
Totally. Plus they're going to monitor your blood work and all that stuff. So.
Right. Which is key. People need to realize you need to do things like that in general. Just check your darn blood work. Yes. Sal, it's so nice seeing you. And and I really appreciate your coming on this podcast. Follow Sal at Mindpump Distefano on Instagram, and follow Mindpump as well, because it's just, I like that feed too. And be sure to check out the Mindpump podcast and everything that you guys do. I am at Just Jenny Hutt on Instagram, at Jenny Hutt on TikTok and Twitter and YouTube, though my YouTube is pathetic. Working on that. If you have any questions or comments about today's episode, you could email justjennypod@gmail.com, and I'll be back here per usual tomorrow. Thank you, Sal.
Thank you.